A pale green glow suffused the vaulted amphitheater of the Earring, the majestic flagship of the Galactic Council. The ceiling a living lattice of crystalline star metal pulsed in soft waves, as if breathing with the collective consciousness of every civilization represented below. From the polished obsidian dais where the council's chair sat, rows upon rows of delegates filled the expansive hall. Sinewy Allori with their diaphanous feathered wings, Kelthur whose crystalline forms hummed with internal resonance, the silent, ever-shifting Centauri, and ambassadors from dozens more worlds, each bearing the weight of their home system's hopes, fears, and ambitions. Chancellor Viren of the Kelthur stood to address the assembly, her voice ringing like struck glass. At nearly 2 meters tall, her slender limbs glinted with 1,000 prismed reflections. Yet her posture was taut with urgency. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her crystalline tone carrying effortlessly through the auditorium, "we convene under a shadow that grows darker by the cycle. Reports from our border sentinels indicate unprecedented disturbances, originating from the star system designated Zeta 7c. The pioneers we once believed to be cautious explorers have shown a troubling disregard for established protocols." A murmur rippled through the audience. The Allori ambassador, High Matron Kukil, fluttered forward on gossamer wings that glowed faintly in cobalt hues. She raised a hand, each slender finger tipped with luminescent quills, and spoke with measured grief. "My envoys witnessed orbital bombardments against uninhabited resource clusters. They reported experimental teleportation fields leaking, quantum plumes distortions that threaten adjacent star lanes. Worst of all, these humans exhibit a disturbingly high tolerance for catastrophic failure, pushing experiments far beyond safety parameters known to any consortium." On the opposite side of the chamber, the Centauri high conflux glowed brighter as it hovered before the dais. Though incapable of speech in the conventional sense, the Centauri delegate projected a thought pattern across the shared telepathic resonance. "We sense boundless curiosity, yet curiosity unmoored by caution can rend the fabric of reality. We urge swift deliberation." But even as these warnings mounted, hesitation flickered in the eyes of some council members. The Avskry merchant magnates, seated in the gilded balconies, exchanged disinterested glances. Their economy thrived on novelty, and a new entrant, however dangerous, could be a profitable venture. Council Secretary Ral Yashara, a robed humanoid from the volcanic world of Shirak, attempted to steer discussion back to cautious diplomacy. His calm baritone cut through the debate. "We must recall that humans have demonstrated remarkable ingenuity and resilience. It is conceivable that their recklessness is merely an expression of drive to push beyond the known frontier. Shall we condemn an entire species on the basis of incomplete data?" A hush fell as many delegates considered this point. On one hand, the human spirit of exploration had yielded transformative technologies, subspace communication, arrays, self-healing bioconstructs, and quantum entanglement drives. Yet the very novelty of these breakthroughs made them perilous, untested beyond their home star. Chancellor Viren allowed a brief pause, letting her words settle like starlit snow. Then she pressed on. "Incomplete though our data may be, patterns emerge. Our archivists have cataloged 3 separate unprovoked incidents in the past standard year. Each time, humans advanced technology without heed to consequences, leading to collateral damage on a cosmic scale. If these developments continue unchecked, we risk a chain reaction that could destabilize entire sectors." She gestured, and holoscreens flickered to life above the dais, each depicting schematic overlays, a shattered asteroid ring drifting toward inhabited planets, sketched energy signatures of unregulated teleportation, projected shockwaves from experimental fusion blasts. The images, glowing in ethereal cyan, prompted gasps from the younger delegates. Amid the tension, Ambassador Celeste Harrington Earth's voice in the council sat uncomfortably at the human delegation's table. Her uniform, sleek and utilitarian, contrasted sharply with the ornate regalia of her peers. She'd arrived weeks earlier, brimming with optimism for interstellar cooperation. But now, as the council's grave expressions mounted, she felt the weight of her species' reputation threaten to crush her. Behind her, Human Security Liaison Director Marcus Trent leaned in, whispering in hushed urgency, "Remember, Ambassador, Our mandate is peaceful engagement. Whatever you do, do not provoke them." Celeste nodded, though her knuckles whitened as she gripped the edge of her chair. High Matron Kukil's voice cut through the haze of speculation once more. "We propose issuing a formal warning to every member world. Exercise extreme caution when engaging with human settlements. Share our data with regional authorities. Should humans persist in unauthorized expansion, we reserve the right to impose sanctions, trade embargoes, docking restrictions, or worst case, interdiction protocols." A ripple of assent followed, but suddenly from the back of the chamber, a series of brash, electronically modulated tones challenged the consensus. A holographic transmission flickered to life, projecting the stern visage of Governor Lauren Ackerman of the HFY Commercial Combine. "With respect, Council, I find these warnings premature. My fleet's surveys over the past months have detected escalating trade volumes and scientific cooperation at all human outposts. The so-called incidents are merely teething troubles in their fledgling phase. I propose a fact-finding mission conducted by a joint scientific delegation, ourselves included, rather than imposing sweeping embargoes." Governor Ackerman's confident smirk sent a subtle challenge through the assembly. Trade, after all, was the lifeblood of the HFY. Several merchant clans exchanged nods, while the Drafkin warlords, a delegation of imposing reptiles in plated armor, snorted at the suggestion of cooperation over confrontation. Council Secretary Rally Yashara raised a cautionary hand. "A joint mission may yield valuable insights, Governor Ackerman, but the technology in question operates at scales beyond mere trade negotiations. Teleportation plumes have been detected in hyperspace corridors rarely traveled by commerce if left unregulated. These experiments threaten innocence across multiple systems." Chancellor Viren cut in, her crystalline voice cold as distant galaxies. "We have deliberated. The warning will stand, and the data files distributed. Let it be known that any polity found aiding or abetting unauthorized human expansion will face Council censure. This is not a threat. It is a necessity unless we wish to gamble the stability of our civilization on the whims of untested ambition." The chamber erupted into a chorus of assent and dissent. Delegates banged crystalline gavel strikers on slatted desks. Wings fluttered, shimmered, and folded. Somber energy sighs drifted from the Sentinai platform. Ambassador Harrington rose, her posture radiating an unprecedented steeliness. "Esteemed Council," she said, voice clear and resolute, "I accept your decision and your concerns. I assure you, Earth shares your desire for stability. I will open communications with our scientific committees to review protocols and ensure transparency. Let us be partners in discovery, not adversaries in conflict." Her words, though conciliatory, carried an edge of conviction that stilled the more cynical delegates. Even Governor Ackerman paused, intrigued by her tone. Chancellor Viren inclined her head. "Very well, Ambassador. We shall assess Earth's cooperation over the coming standard cycle. Meanwhile, let the warning stand." As the assembly adjourned, clusters of delegates lingered in hushed groups, replaying holographic data and debating the next steps. The Sentinai returned to their silent meditations. The Drafkin conferred in guttural tongues. The HFY convened an impromptu marketplace of ideas, and in the great corridors of the Irene, under the watchful glow of its living ceiling, the human delegation moved as one, aware that their species had awakened ancient fears and that the path ahead would demand more than eloquence. It would require trust earned through deeds. Outside, beyond the amphitheater's stained glass viewports, stars gleamed like distant lanterns. Somewhere among their myriad points of light, Zeta 7c turned quietly in its orbit, a world on the cusp of destiny, watched by wary eyes across the galaxy. And as the Irene's engines hummed to life, ready to disperse the Council's warning to every corner of known space, the question hung in the charged air: would anyone listen? The HFY's golden Halcyon, the gleaming manufacturing hub world of Tylox Prime, where spired factories churned iridescent alloys and gravity-tethered skycraft flitted between cloud-piercing towers. Governor Lauren Ackerman reclined in his octagonal council chamber. The walls, carved from polished adamantine, reflected the soft glow of holo displays. streaming the Galactic Council's ultimatum, a stern warning against humanity's reckless expansion. Ackerman's ivory-gloved fingers tapped impatiently. Against the crystalline table, across from him, the Avskry High Trade Consul, Malish Varro, arched an elegant brow. "Governor," Varro purred, "your hesitation risks stalling negotiations for the newest human trade patents. They claim to have cracked stable zero-point energy emulsions. Imagine the profit millions of credits in the first standard cycle." Alone, Ackerman waved away the hologram of an asteroid cluster rendered in glowing orange. "I've seen their so-called accidents, entire belts shattered, drifting toward inhabited moons. The Council's data shows energy signatures that singe through inert rock, faster than any of our contractors can shield." He leaned forward. "But yes, those fusion patents are tempting. We must decide, sanction them and forgo those markets, or gamble on our own shielding tech to monitor them closely." Varro's quills flicked, sending ripples of pale green light across the chamber. "We could arrange a controlled partnership, offer to co-fund a joint shielding research pavilion on Zeta 7C. Bring them into the fold so we can regulate their tests in-house." He allowed a thin smile, a classic carrot rather than stick approach. The governor considered this as an executive aide scrolled up projected maps of prospective orbital platforms. Meanwhile, in the plush balconies overlooking the chamber, merchant lords whispered among themselves. The Avskry Senate floor had already begun drafting a counter-resolution, celebrating human technological participation, effectively nullifying the Council's embargo. By the time Ackerman rose to deliver his verdict to the Senate, the die was cast. Tylox Prime would embrace the humans, sanctions or no. The Drafkin Sword Drumson, the volcanic planet of Gennaro, world of molten seas and serrated obsidian plateaus. The Drafkin Warlord Council convened amid geysers of steam. Their fortified citadels, perched atop smoking magma vents, trembled with each rumble of the planet's tortured crust. General Kroshuk, a hulking reptilian veteran, whose ridged scales were scarred by countless campaigns, addressed his lieutenants. "Through the heat-hazed war pit, the Council warns of humans, yet dares not challenge them to their faces," he growled. "Their unpredictability is a boon to us. We shall unleash Operation Molten Spear, infiltrate their frontier outposts, seize them unawares, and ransom their scientists for our weapon researchers." High Strategist Vekris, smaller but far more calculating, hissed in agreement. "Our scouts report that human defenses consist mainly of energy shields. Overmesh domes relatively easy to disable with calibrated plasma charges. With 2 moon site captures, we'll command their ambassadors' attention and secure prime tech." Drums of basalt resonated, marking the pact. The Drafkin war fleet would launch in 3 solar rotations, each cruiser armed with virus-tipped tail drones and siege cannons calibrated for subspace disruption. By timing their assaults to coincide with the Avskry trade missions, the Council's fractured unity would be exploited. One polity demanding partnership, another provoking conflict. The humans would be caught in the crossfire, the Centauri's silent reckoning for a way. Within the crystalline energy nexus of Thalos V, the Centauri convened in their floating silence. No spoken words echoed through the luminescent spires. Instead, thought patterns entwined in billowing currents of pure psionic resonance. The issue at hand, the Council's warning against humanity. Elder Flux, a shimmering vortex of prismatic radiance, and the eldest among their kind projected a series of visions. Human scientists on lunar towers, their instruments crackling with quantum fluctuations, refugees fleeing accidental fissures in reality. And at the edge, tantalizing images of humans reversing entropy in microdomains. "You see both peril and promise," Elder Flux conveyed. "We are creatures of boundless thought, yet the human mind's entanglement with emotion grants them ingenuity we lack and folly we cannot predict." Younger Centauri, their forms flickering uncertainly, radiated doubt. "Shall we trust a species that toys with space-time as if it were clay? We have witnessed their experiments tear at the fabric of lesser dimensions." A third, conversely, sighed with a gentle cascade of light. "Yet from collision springs creation. Our own convergence of thought and energy birthed the Centauri. Perhaps humanity's chaos is the spark for a new age of cosmic understanding. In the end, the Centauri issued neither embargo nor alliance. Instead, they dispatched observers of dual aspect, psionic probes cloaked in empathic dampeners, to monitor human outposts and transmit undistorted experiences back to Thalos. The final communique, woven in complex harmonic frequencies, declared, "We watch, we learn." Ripple effects across the fringe as the weeks passed. The Council's warning rippled outward, but like concentric waves against stubborn rock. Its impact varied. On Iridian 9, a desert world of bioengineered sandworms and microglimmer oases, the Blade Vendor Consortium cynically advertised human hazard insurance packages, betting on disasters to boost premium sales. On the utopian biosphere world of Silithus, ecologists lamented the lack of unified action, while secretly inviting human terraforming consultants to test gentle nanoreceders in tiny experimental domes. Meanwhile, between star lanes, independent traders smuggled banned human nanotech. Under false identifications, each nanet rumored to repair starship hulls in real time, a capability worth its weight in tritanium. Pirate crews, eager for any advantage, began equipping their boarding craft with human-made microcloaks, granting near invisibility at short range on the renegade research station Ioner's Cradle. Rogue scientists from half a dozen species Kelthar, Alluri, Drathkin defectors gathered under clandestine permits to dissect human tech codes. Their network of black market starjumps ensured that every leaked blueprint spread across the outer rim, faster than the Council's slow diplomatic cables could retract it. Earth's delegation and the Council's fracture back aboard the Irene. Ambassador Celeste Harrington pored over intercepted trade logs and covert intelligence. Despite her best efforts to convey Earth's commitment to transparency, she suspected that the Council's unity was already fracturing beyond repair. Each polity interpreted the warning through its own lens of greed, ambition, or fear, she conferred. With Director Marcus Trent in the cramped human audit chambers, "They're weaponizing our own outreach," she whispered, tapping a holomap dotted with illicit shipments of human nanets. "If we can't control these leaks, the Council will see us not as partners, but as provocateurs." Trent's brow furrowed. "Our security protocols are 3 cycles behind the rash of thefts. We need to upgrade, but that will only fuel paranoia. Maybe we should offer to lead a joint investigation." Kelthar archives, Alluri diplomats, Centauri observers, and Olive Branch. Celeste considered the suggestion. The idea of a joint task force drawing upon the very same powers who had shrugged at the original warning seemed both desperate and ingenious. It could restore trust, or at least slow the tide of clandestine exploitation. Yet she feared time was slipping away. Each smuggled circuit, each stolen formula weakened Earth's credibility. The Council would soon demand accountability, perhaps worse than embargoes. Interdiction fleets circling Earth's orbit, enforcing isolation. The unraveling Aegis dusk fell on the Irenae's observation deck. Celeste gazed at the silvered ribbon of the Milky Way below, reflecting on the fragile lattice of alliances and enmities. Somewhere, the Drathkin war fleet readied its plasma nova boosters. Farther still, the Avskry Senate prepared to crown humanity a provisional member of their trading consortium. In the middle, the silent Centauri recorded every heartbeat of the unfolding drama. Her datapad chimed with a cryptic missive. First quantum fissure detected near ZETA7C. Coordinates transmitted securely. The words sent a chill through her spine. Humanity's experiments were already fracturing the very fabric of known space, and not artfully as in cutting-edge theory, but violently. As if ripping a gash with careless hands, she turned to Director Trent, voice taut. "This is it. If that fissure widens, every polity friend and foe will blame us. We need that joint task force, and fast." Trent inclined. "I'll draft the proposal. Let's hope it's not too late to unify the Council's fractured will." Above them, the living ceiling of the Irene pulsed once more, an imperceptible tremor in its crystalline lattice. Somewhere in the distance, Zeta 7C orbited its dying sun, unaware that the fate of countless civilizations now hinged upon its unstable core. And as the starship lurched into hyperspace to deliver Celeste's plea, the galaxy held its breath, caught between what might be and what must not become. The human storm unleashed nightfall on Earth's sprawling orbital arrays was measured not by stars obscured by city-sized reflectors but by the pulse of ion drives, charging in geosynchronous lanes. Ambassador Celeste Harrington watched the planet below through a viewport of the Erin, its surface a riot of luminescent conurbations and veined highways. She recalled her early optimism that Earth's tentative steps beyond Sol would be greeted with cautious curiosity. Instead, her species' ambition had broken every boundary. The Intrepid Dawn's triumph 2 months earlier. The starship Intrepid Dawn had slipped through the Council's unspoken blockade at 0.87 C, emerging from a concealed hyperspace corridor on the far side of Tau Ceti Majoris. Captain Arjun Patel's first transmission back to Earth was pure triumph. "We have established orbital stability. Planetary scanners confirm abundant arable land, breathable atmosphere pockets, and native life forms of no hostile intent. Requesting immediate colony dispatch. Within 20 standard hours, the first wave of colonists, engineers, biologists, terraforming specialists descended in sleek landing pods to carve out the embryonic settlement of New Providence. Domes of self-healing polymer blossomed across the verdant plains. Hydroponic farms unfurled beneath protective force fields, and robotic drones erected communication arrays pointing back to Earth. Unregulated experiments, yet what began as precision science soon veered into uncharted daring. The New Providence Terraforming Directorate, under the oversight of Dr. Leela Ortiz, envisioned a grand project to accelerate the planet's habitability. By inducing a controlled greenhouse effect, nanoswarms were unleashed into the upper atmosphere, self-replicating aerosols engineered to break down trace gases and seed oxygenic microbes. At first, the results were miraculous. Atmospheric readings climbed 20% in days. Sensors recorded rising humidity and a surge in vocalized wildlife. But then anomalies appeared. Microstorms of corrosive fog gathered without warning, dissolving the polymer dome's outer layers. Drone swarms reported interference from unknown electromagnetic fields. And worst of all, the terraforming nanites designed to self-neutralize after 3 growth cycles began to mutate, merging with native microorganisms. Within a fortnight, New Providence teetered on ecological collapse, collision course with the Council back on the Erin. Alerts blared as the Council's deep space monitors detected distortions surrounding the New Providence star system. A subspace fissure, small but growing, hovered at the edge of the human colony's atmosphere. If allowed to expand unchecked, it would fracture the local spacetime continuum, erasing moons and destabilizing the Tau Ceti jump nodes. Chancellor Virene's call crackled across the comm grid. "Ambassador Harrington, explain the nature of the distortions. Are your colonists conducting unauthorized subspace trials?" Celeste's voice was steady but urgent. "Chancellor, New Providence's terraforming project triggered unforeseen quantum feedback. We are containing the anomaly with emergency field generators, but we request Council assistance to stabilize the rift." Silence. "Then, we are dispatching the Kelther stabilization frigate Oputius. Docking clearance in 12 hours. Cease all experimental activity until further notice." As the Erin pivoted to rendezvous, the humans on New Providence scrambled to erect containment pylons. Captain Patel coordinated with Dr. Ortiz's team, their exultation of discovery now tainted by guilt and fear. In the flickering red glow of emergency lamps, Ortiz whispered, "We unleashed more than biology. The nanites breached the quantum membrane. They're rewriting reality on a molecular scale." The Drafkin ambush unknown to both human and Council forces. A Drafkin Warfel Eat lay in wait at the far side of the system. General Kroshik's plasma nova cruisers, masked by the planetary magnetotail, had intercepted transmissions, detailing the subspace fissure to the warlike reptiles. It was a weapon they could claim, capture the human scientists and quantum data, and Drafkin supremacy would be assured. As the Oputius emerged from hyperspace, its sleek Kelther hull shimmering with stabilization arrays, the Drafkin unleashed a barrage of Ion Lance torpedoes. The frigate's shields flickered under the assault. Celeste, aboard the Irenae's tactical deck, watched in horror as Council protocols forbade direct retaliation. Without an official declaration of war, Captain Patel, receiving the distress call, deployed every armed drone under his command. In the swirling debris field between the frigate and the human colony, a miniature armada of gunships and interceptor crafts zipped into action. Orbital defense cannons originally intended to protect against rogue asteroids targeted the Drathkan aggressors with lethal precision. The clash was cataclysmic. Tracer beams painted the darkness. Plasma bolts scarred the void, and one by one, the Drathkan cruisers collapsed into superheated wreckage, but not before ejecting missile pods that streaked toward New Providence's surface. New Providence under siege below, as darkened skies rained incendiary warheads. The colonists scrambled to divert power from terraforming pylons to anti-ballistic turrets. Dr. Ortiz, injured by shrapnel, ordered the final protocol, emergency shutdown of the nanite swarms, and activation of planetary stabilization fields, an extreme measure that risked collapsing the atmosphere entirely. Better to reset to baseline than to mutate ourselves into extinction, she told Captain Patel, who relayed the order to every generator grid on the planet. The ground trembled as the stabilization fields flared to life, sucking the rogue nanites into containment rays. The fusillade of missiles detonated against the fortified shields, and for a tense moment, the surface hung in a glowing crimson haze. Then, one by one, the impacts ceased. Hours later, the smoke cleared. New Providence lay battered but intact, its domes scarred and its ecosystems thrown back into primitive balance. The fissure, meanwhile, had sealed itself, its quantum energies drained into the stabilization fields. Aftermath and accusations in the Council's floating tribunal chamber. An assembly hastily convened above the lifeless core of an ancient. Dead Star delegates demanded accountability. The Drathkan, having lost most of their fleet, accused Earth of using the fissure as a trap. The Avskrai, having profited handsomely by covert trade deals, charged Council overreach for involving military assets. The Sentinai, recording every nuance, offered sobering commentary on the elemental chaos unleashed by human ambition. Chancellor Virene's crystalline tone cut through the cacophony. Let the record show. Humans triggered a subspace rift capable of erasing inhabited systems, and provoked a near all-out war in Tau Ceti. Earth, you have placed the galaxy on the brink. Celeste Harrington stepped forward, her diplomatic composure tempered by exhaustion. Esteemed Council, I admit our errors. We underestimated the complexity of the quantum ecosystems we tampered with. Captain Patel and Dr. Ortiz have volunteered to lead a joint investigatory commission. Kelther, scientists, Alori ethicists, Sentinai observers included, to catalog every facet of these events and propose binding safety frameworks for all species. Murmurs of both approval and skepticism rippled through the chamber. Governor Ackerman raised an objection. Will Earth accept that these safety frameworks apply to civilian corporations as well as government agencies? Or will we see more backdoor experiments under private sect banners? Dr. Ortiz, present as part of the human delegation, met the governor's gaze. All levels of governance and enterprise, public, private, and independent, will adhere. We will sign any treaty you propose. Her words rang with the fervor of someone who had seen reality itself unspool. A new coalition by the end of the session. A preliminary resolution took shape, a Tau Ceti Safety Accord, mandating transparent sharing of quantum and subspace research, creation of joint containment facilities on neutral worlds, and establishment of a cross-species tribunal empowered to enforce sanctions. Ratification would occur once each signatory returned to its home territories for legislative approval. As the Irene departed Tau Ceti system, carrying the freshly inked accord into hyperspace, Celeste allowed herself a moment's relief. Humanity had weathered its own storm and emerged chastened, yet still determined. Behind her, the galaxies. Currents had shifted, suspicion remained, but so too did hope that, through shared governance of the most dangerous frontiers, all species could learn to steer their ambitions away from catastrophe. Below, New Providence glimmered, a battered jewel reflecting the cost of unchecked progress. Tomorrow, they would begin reconstruction, and tomorrow, the first joint Kelther-Alori Sentinai research teams would arrive to turn warnings into wisdom. The The true test had begun. Unintended apocalypse or unity. The unraveling fissurine, the silent void beyond Tau Ceti. The subspace fissure that Dr. Ortiz's nanits had first torn into being now yawned wider than any known void. Quake, tendrils of shimmering distortion, snaked through adjacent star lanes, drawing in stray particles, warping the trajectories of comets and small planetoids alike. On the bridge of the Erin, Ambassador Harrington and Chancellor Viren watched in dawning horror as the rippling, fractal patterns crept toward the Council flagship stabilizers. Shields at 30% and falling, reported Lieutenant Sorel of the Alluri Guard. Her wings quivering in alarm. If we don't contain this soon, the hull's quantum integrity will collapse. The Council's flagship, once an emblem of unity, trembled as if caught in an invisible tsunami. Emergency lights painted the corridors blood red. Delegates of every species rushed to secure containment packs and gravimetric anchors. The living star metal ceiling pulsed erratically, its crystalline veins crackling with unscheduled feedback loops. Descent into chaos across the galaxy. The fissure's consequences manifested with terrifying immediacy. Kelthar homeworld. Aldea 7, crystal spires that housed the Kelthar's collective consciousness began to fracture, sending shards of psychic backlash through their crystalline network. Dozens of Kelthar delegates convulsed in agony. Their entire society plunged into dissonant chaos. Alluri expanse. Skydomes of Virelia, gravity wells warped, flinging entire feathered flocks into the void. The seismic tremors buckled. The floating sky arches, sending ruins plummeting into the storm cloud sea below. Centini Nexus, Thalos V, pure energy currents unraveled. The Centini, beings of concentrated thought, found their collective focus splintering into disjointed echoes. Streams of raw data leaked into the void, depriving them of centuries' worth of memories. Earth's lunar rings, the debris fields orbiting Earth, from mining platforms to orbital habitats, destabilized. Remnant asteroids, caught in the fissure's pull, rained down on the moon's surface, rocking Earth's night skies with silent firestorms. Back aboard the Erin, every able-hand human, alien and synthetic rallied to the crisis consoles. The Council's standard protocols, designed for war or famine, were useless against a wound-in reality itself. Every species experts pored over containment algorithms, striving to reverse the process that had barely been perfected by Dr. Ortiz's team. Alliance forged in Firite was General Kroshik of the Drathkin who broke the stalemate. Messengers from his diminished fleet to battered for another attack offered their remaining plasma calibrators to reinforce the Irenae's stabilizer grids. In return, Ambassador Harrington granted them access to human quantum field data. Our feud pales beside the void's hunger. Kroshik rumbled. Stand with us, or be swallowed by your own arguments. Simultaneously, Governor Ackerman's Avskry trade convoys diverted every salvage drone to recover shattered subspace crystals once prized as luxury ornaments, and delivered them to the Irenae's repair docks. Even the Centini sent empathic conduits, threads of pure psionic energy, to knit together the fractured consciousness of their brethren, sharing the burden across the entire Council. With enemies turned allies, the Council flagship became a crucible of cooperation. Kelthar engineers embedded their living crystals into the Irenae's hull, generating a resonant counter-frequency to the fissure's oscillations. Alluri wing gunners deployed antiplenum drones that tethered the fissure's loose tendrils. Human quantum physicists, led by Dr. Ortiz, synthesized a harmonization waveform acoustic subspace pulse designed to heal the tear. As the last pulse primed, the combined energies of every race converged. The living crystals hummed, the wing gunners held their breath, and the psionic threads glowed brightest of all. Then, in a blinding flash of prismatic light, the fissure recoiled. Tendrils collapsed inward, snuffing themselves out like dying embers. Within moments, the void quake subsided, the lanes stilled, and the galaxy exhaled. Aftermath and new dawn in the hush that followed. The Erin drifted among the stars scored by cracks, yet still whole. Ambassador Harrington stepped onto the bridge, flanked by Chancellor Viren and representatives of every Council race. Below them, holoscreens flickered with status updates, subspace lanes reopening, gravimetric fields normalizing, and each homeworld beginning the slow process of healing. Chancellor Virene's voice, often so cold and crystalline, now bore a note of warmth. Let this catastrophe stand as our shared testament that in the face of extinction, only unity can prevail. Governor Ackerman inclined his head. We shall embark on the Tau Ceti Restoration Initiative, co-funded by Avskry Merchant Houses, to rebuild the worlds damaged by the fissure. General Kroshik grunted assent, and Drathkin warfleets will guard the new stabilization outposts, ensuring no future breach goes unchecked. Even the Centauri, in their serene resonance, offered a promise to establish permanent psionic sentinels capable of sensing and sealing nascent rifts before they grow. A new providence, now a memorial to both brilliance and hubris. Humans and aliens worked side by side. Dome shards lay transformed into monuments. Gardens bloomed where fallout once scorched the soil. Dr. Ortiz and Kelther scientists oversaw the cultivation of hybrid biomes, ensuring that no species held dominion over nature's rebirth. And so, from the brink of universal annihilation rose a new covenant, the Galactic Compact of Restoration and Peace, ratified by every council member, human and alien alike. It mandated shared stewardship of volatile frontiers, mutual aid in crises, and the humbling acknowledgement that no civilization, however advanced, could withstand the cosmos alone. That Ambassador Harrington gazed at the repaired ceiling of the Irene, its crystalline lattice now patterned with new lines of solidarity. In that living star metal, she glimpsed the countless faces, human and alien, who had chosen cooperation over conquest. And as the flagship's engines purred, carrying the compact's terms to every star system, she whispered, "We have learned, at last, that warnings are only words. It is our actions united that shape the destiny of the galaxy." Beneath the endless stars, a fragile but resilient peace was reborn.